Thank you. Can I just prompt you on a couple of the points that Councillor Scott raised? You've answered several of them, but there was some question also about dual-use pavements and about Gilbert Road access. And I may come back later, but I just think I don't know if you've got anything to add on Mitcham's Corner. It's not part of the current scheme, but I do think the point was made well on that, and whether or not we could look at just an update on what the future potential options are as part of the final report, not because it's going to catch up, but we shouldn't lose Mitcham's Corner as part of this study.
No, I think that's right, Chair, and I met the friends of Mitcham's Corner quite recently on this. So we are working with City Council colleagues as to how we would take forward that as a package, but it is not part of the Milton Road scheme, and I would be hesitant in terms of scope creep.
I don't think it's possible to jack it in at this stage, but I do think it's an issue which we did look at, and Councillor Bates and I did a good look into it. I think part of our issue was the complexity of Mitcham's Corner would have been difficult to resolve in the same time scale. But I do think that we need to effectively record either by way of an additional recommendation or just to record that the board is going to continue to follow up the needs as part of the next tranche of funding.
And in terms of the other points, so shared use will be specifically asking people's views on that, and we expect there'll be quite a broad range of it. And the crossing it down Downham's Lane, we are still looking to try and get in. There's a balance in terms of pedestrian priority along with the traffic movements, but I'm hopeful that we can progress the Downham's Lane crossing. I know there's been quite a lot of local feedback on that.
And just being a consistent soul, in terms of a couple of other questions, there was a question from Richard Cushing just basically about the availability of the data.
And I hope that I respond. We'll be putting all the data in the business case online, which is how we assess our schemes anyway. The benefit cost ratio for this is in a range above 2.3, which is for a public transport scheme is really close.
And the actual traffic data
that feeds into the business case.
So if Mr. Cushing rings you up, you'll be able to get some answers about how you can access it.
I think if he rings me, I will certainly find someone who can answer the technical questions.
Okay, right. So thank you for that and for the update on the report. I mean, we've also obviously got drawings on the proposals, and we followed it either being at the local liaison forum or by watching a film of it or by looking at the scheme as it progressed. Are there any questions that members of the Executive Board want to ask about? Right. Claire Ruskin.
Quick one as always, so this is good report for progress. Just checking that lessons have been learned from Hills Road users, all types of users, and the floating bus stop some other aspects of the developments there.
Absolutely no intention to reinvent the wheel. So very much learning from that and rolling it forward.
Councillor Bates, and also get your input as transport portfolio holder as well.
Well, first is a question, I couldn't find it, which is how many crossings, it relates to crossings, and how many of those are signalised, and how many are not. Because I couldn't quite figure that out in the report, because the reason I asked that is that the bus company spoke to me about the problems of the bus stops, stops generally on the street. I couldn't find an answer to that, so do we know the answer?
We do, and the man who does gives me a good opportunity to introduce Paul Vanderbilt, who's the project manager for this, and I'm reliably informed he's got the answer.
No pressure. So all of the crossings that are indicated on the plans are proposed to be signalised.
What's that in total? It's the total that I got asked the question and I didn't have the answer.
We've got the scheme on there. Okay, we'll have a look and we'll come back in a minute.
Okay. Councillor Van der Beer.
In terms of the content of the consultation, there's a couple of points I want to pick up. One, so just visually, we wouldn't be be asking specifically about the shared, people's views on the shared use, how that functions, and on the crossings and where people want them, and that sort of thing. The Joint Assembly raised the issue of TROs on controlled verge parking. So verge parking, to have any verge parking at all will completely undermine the scheme. So it's necessary to by some means you need to manage that. Whether TROs is the right thing. I mean, is that be included in some way? What's the issue? How can we manage what reduction in parking availability as long as how that will impact people? That be included. I don't think we need to be going directly to that solution necessarily.
So I think, I mean, the intention of the consultation is to really not undermine or in any way not be transparent in some of the decisions that the scheme requires. Parking is a good example of that. So to deliver this scheme and the improvements for walking, cycling and public transport means there will be a removal of on-street parking, and that will be part of the consultation upfront, explicitly, people will understand that. Thank you for the reminder in terms of the Joint Assembly discussion that did raise the issue of traffic regulation orders to deal with grass verges. I think the Joint Assembly took away to bring that forward, and I know the Chair did in his introduction. And in the paper is a sort of a clear suggestion that the Board may wish to consider specifically asking that question around a traffic regulation order to govern verge parking as part of the consultation process.
I'd like to, I know you're not an arboriculturalist, but I'd like to sort of quiz again on this issue of the nature of the trees and the semi-mature trees and the advice that we've had about what's the size that's best likely to thrive. What's to stop us being more clear about this 16 to 18 centimetres? Because I can see the concern of residents that if you mix that up with a sort of under that range, then 0 is under that range. Can we commit to 16 to 18 centimetre trees?
I mean, to start off with, I am not a tree specialist, albeit I've sort of dabbled in this in previous lives. So I think the point was well made around 0 or 5 or 7 or whatever else. I think if the tree specialists were sat here, they would also be saying if you were going for 30 or 40 or 50, it would have the same impact in terms of they wouldn't flourish and develop in a way that is appropriate to the circumstances. There will be wider and there will be narrower options along the corridor, and what we want to do is to have the flexibility to say we want the best possible scheme, and it will, fortunately for residents' communities, not be me who's deciding what that is. We will be relying on tree specialists, and they may say 16, they may say 15, they may say 20, and I would just be a little bit concerned that actually what we're after here is the quality product at the end, and I think we all agree on. I wouldn't want to hamstring us in terms of saying, frankly, have the people on site in yellow jackets saying, well, actually that's only 15 and a half, or that's 22. And I think as long as I'm trying to give that reassurance that we'll be delivering trees that will work and are appropriate to the site. I tend to try and move away from the 16 or 18 thing, because that's the guidance we've been given, and that's the guidance we'll be working to.
Okay. Well, I would just like to record that Will, as chair of the board, we are looking at trees of around 15 centimetres or more, and then that way at least it's better than under 16 to 18. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Bates.
Okay, just so people are aware, I will be making a proposal to change the recommendation that Article 3 should come to later on in respect of traffic regulation. Just a couple of other things before I do use the bus, and I do come down the bus on the Milk Road and Eastern Road, actually, depending on where I'm going, so I'm very familiar with bus lanes on both routes. In respect of floating bus stops, I'll give you an idea. Safety bus stops might be a good couple of words to use, because I think that may be better than the word floating. So please look at the ones which are on Huntington Road currently and see if you think they're okay or not. So I would encourage people on the local liaison to have a look at those and see if the ways of improving and working with the officers on exactly that. When it comes to these dual use, you can put up signs. They are done in other places in this county, respecting each other. So I think that signage on the dual use parts would be also something that would be useful to consider. The chairman's covered the tree issue. I'm not either, and especially on this issue. I think it would be a mistake to confine ourselves too narrowly or too widely, or leave it to specialists, because I'm not a specialist in this area. And I think it also depends about where it's going and what other issues in respect of water availability as well. So sometimes you might put a larger tree in, and sometimes you might put a better tree, thinking about how it will be actually mature over time. I think what you're looking for is to have something that actually survives and doesn't die out for a couple of years because you planted the wrong site. And I have seen that happen as well. So I think for the moment, I think you mentioned Mitchell's Corner, we went to the farm. I think the bus stops, etc. I think all goes back. I did attend the local liaison forum recently, so heard discussions as well. I've come to the amendment at the appropriate time, Chairman. Okay, but I think at the moment I'll leave it at that.
Any more questions? All right. Could you also just, as you're going to be speaking, address just some of the issues that Councillor Scott raised about the design of these, what did you call them? Safer bus stops.
The safer bus stops, okay.
That's a new word for you.
So in terms of the crossings, there are proposed to be 4 pedestrian crossings away from junctions, and they roughly match the existing crossings. Obviously, Peter's mentioned we are looking at another crossing in Cambs Lane, possibly. That could mean either moving one of the crossings further down or putting an additional crossing in. And then, obviously, all of the junctions, which are now signalised, also have crossings, and that includes 8 further crossings, so 2 on each junction.
Thank you.
In terms of the bus stops,
yeah.
We have had a meeting with Jocelyn and Jerry Bird and the guys from the cycling team who have done a lot of work to kind of improve the design of these bus stops over the years. So we think that we are well aware of some of the issues that people have. And some of the main issues include the width of the bus stop. So there has to be enough width on the island for people, especially people in wheelchairs, to disembark from the bus. So we're aware of that width, and kind of the minimum width guidance that we have, I think, is 2.3 metres. So we're looking to design slightly above that if we can. And then the other issue that people have is actually crossing the cycleway. So a lot of people have, there are a number of people who feel that there isn't enough to slow cyclists down, so it's kind of difficult for them to cross the cycleway to get from the pavement to the bus stop. So we're aware of that issue and we're looking at possible solutions to address it.
Okay. I'm sure it's going to get raised in the consultation. So thank you for those answers. Any other points we want to make? You mentioned Councillor Bates that you had an amendment.
Indeed. I think they're going to send it around, so we'll just send it around so you can see what I'm going to suggest. Okay. For those that have got the papers, it's on page 29. Papers, item 11, and it will be a little 3. a traffic regulation order in brackets TRP in the TRO, get it right, in respect to parking on verges in Milton.
Yes.
As it's going to be part of the consultation, I think my view would be, well, let's see what the consultation says. Well, because it'll all get teased out, I would imagine, at that point when people say, well, what are the options, what are the choices, what do we want or don't we want? I'm flexible.
But I think the proposal it does relate to the control of parking. So would you be interested in control of?
Well, I think the TRO covers it because it's a little process. So I think it actually comes into
Well, we'll leave it with council-based work, but the intent is to address the problem of parking. Sorry about So hopefully that's Councillor Van der Leyen. So if I now move to vote on that amendment, all those in favour of the amendment? That's unanimous. Come back with just an update as part of the on what some of the issues are when we bring the full report, not because it's going to come forward, but because it is a critical bookend and link to the rest of the system that we're selling. So if we could just note that we'll cover that in the final, I expect, report on this project. Can I just move the three recommendations together then, and note that the cost of the scheme now is £16 million as an estimate, whereas the overall budget is 23 million, so it's just some room for manoeuvre as well as a lower likely cost. So first of all, to support the third option design shown in plans 1 to 3, so based on public consultation and further detailed design work, including preparation of the business case, note the new cost estimate of £16 million in capital costs for delivery of this scheme, plus the recommendation that's been moved by Ian Bates. All those in favour? Thank you. Again, that's unanimous. So again, I'll just reiterate thanks that this is a different scheme to the scale and intervention that was originally proposed, and I think it achieves both the objectives of public transport, but also protects the environment and in many cases enhances it. I look forward to seeing those trees subject to the results of the consultation. So thank you for everybody's input into this project. So I'll move on to item 12, and along with item 14, this is an amended paper. So if I could ask, I think Mr. Blake again, I've got the voice, to introduce the report on city access.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for the voice, I was getting a little bit excited yesterday evening. City access, so in many respects this leans on the paper that we considered earlier around public transport, and in terms of what the future may need to look like to deal with the growth issues that we have in the Greater Cambridge area, but also that this paper around options for reducing congestion and improving air quality are predicated on the public transport network.
I'm going to try this without. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. The proposals or the options that we explore in this paper are predicated upon the quality public transport service and network being delivered, because there's a clear interrelationship between the two. One of the key targets that the Greater Cambridge Partnership has equates to the dealing with traffic congestion and looking at traffic growth or traffic reduction on the 2011 baseline of 10 to 15%. Now, given that traffic has grown in the intervening period, actually that target today looks like a reduction of 24%. So we need to be putting a public transport system in place that offers a viable alternative for people, but also exploring what options that we've got in terms of reducing and managing the traffic. The graph on page 46 is simply the same graph that you've seen before in terms of projected growth of traffic over the period, and again it is saying there is likely to be a 25-26% growth in traffic if there are no material changes in terms of the system that we operate. Paragraph 5.7 just outlines why demand management is important in terms of the context of Greater Cambridge, both in terms of reducing congestion, promoting public transport and offering the conditions to promote public transport. Buses operate on the same roads that congested traffic operate in, and so therefore giving it priority is terribly challenging otherwise, but also starting the shift away from the private car to public transport, walking and cycling, because they're seen as viable alternatives. So demand management is seen as part of really creating the conditions that can change the status quo. There are a number of ways that we can manage demand. And so, as this is very much work in progress, the physical controls, the reducing or restricting access, the closing of roads either on a part-time or a full-time basis, the changes around on-street parking arrangements, such as we've discussed in Milton Road previously, we are still assessing what the impact might be of the options around that. What we are able to do in terms of the paper is outline some of the impact around demand management that has a charging element of some description. So I think the options outlined in paragraph 6 onwards are saying that if we make changes to off-street parking charges, there is likely to be an impact in terms of general traffic, albeit relatively modest, but that could well generate significant amounts of revenue income that may well be required to deliver the public transport alternatives that we discussed previously. The paper then rolls on to say this is what the impact will be for the workplace parking levy, noticeably less than off-street parking charges, and that's in part because we're very much reliant on experience from elsewhere, which in the UK context is principally Nottingham, that says that employers tend not to pass the charging on to employees, and therefore travel patterns don't change. So in of itself it will generate revenue, which could be invested in alternatives, but by itself will not impact on general traffic generally. The next two potential alternatives around pollution charging and intelligent charging relate very much to the details of the individual scheme. So how broad an area, what the charging rates are, whether it's part-time all the time. And I think the general difference in there is saying that a pollution charge, such as has recently been introduced in London, would offer some quite marked congestion benefits. But because it's related to vehicle type, or certainly what's coming on the back of vehicles, then that benefit might be quite time limited, because what we can expect is vehicles are getting and will continue to get markedly cleaner all the time. So a pollution charge will generate some revenue income in the shorter term and will generate significant decongestion benefits, but over time they will reduce because there is a general transition to cleaner vehicles, which will ultimately get to electric vehicles, and therefore, whilst we would capture the air quality benefits, we would embed a congestion benefit. An intelligent charge, which is maybe a charge relating to prevailing road conditions around congestion levels, peak time or whatever else, would have a sort of more long-term impact because it's far more focused on sort of congestion. I think in terms of the issues that were raised at the Joint Assembly, they rightly highlighted that this is very much work in progress, that there are a whole host of issues wrapped up in this, equity issues, particularly important. So you can see how there's an equity issue around the geography, around income levels, particularly relating it back to public transport and what public transport fare levels are and how the two interrelate. So these things really need to be understood and really related together as we continue to develop our thinking on this. Nevertheless, this is very much a sort of an update on the work that's been done at present. And I think certainly around the physical measures and also refining our understanding of the linkage between charging and public transport, that's work that we would anticipate taking forward and we'll put back to the board in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Any questions or comments? Question? Comment?
I was just going to say that very much welcome.
Could you speak up a bit? Sorry.
Sorry, I was say that very much welcome this paper. I think it's the approach, the holistic approach, thoughtful, linking supply and demand issues is incredibly important. The most critical part to me going forward, unlike some of the discussions and debates that we've been having in other places, is evidence-based. And that evidence should help us make decisions on how we go forward with GCP and the investment decisions that we're going to make.
Okay, thank you, Professor Armanding. Councillor A.
I'm actually going to want to go to so yes, I think this is an extremely important part of a journey towards a comprehensive strategy on managing demand and that aspect of the work we're doing. I think there's just some sort of thoughts as a result of it. There's all these different things that we can do, so we've got to think about how they interact with each other, affects how in terms of the timing and what have you. But that doesn't mean that some of the things can't be done sooner rather than later. Some of the physical things, for example, I'm in discussion at the moment about Mill Road and how the traffic, the roadworks there showing what a positive effect reducing the cars in Mill Road has. So that's something that we could probably do sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later. And we've also got to think about whether things we're doing further down the line don't make what we're doing sooner redundant. I mean, if we're doing some more sort of comprehensive charging systems, then is it actually worth doing the work that's ultimately in the meantime? If that's where we're heading at. In terms of the different ways of charging, I think there are probably a wider variety of models that need to be looked at. At the moment, we're talking about different zones for charging, and I believe there's other things that you have where you charge for passing particular places, the locations that get congested, and we can do it depending on congestion as much as timings, that sort of thing, and really getting into the detail of what they mean and how they affect people, and how people can have different sort of change their travel methods. There's a chicken and egg problem that we need some of the more revenue generating things to fund public transport. So again, that's something that we need to think about when working on that strategy. Timings of things that are quite hectic. Once you kind of start charging people until we've got the public transport in place, but where do we get the money to do that? But I think it's extremely good and a good step on that way.
I don't know if it is appropriate to ask this, so do stop me if it isn't, but I wondered if we had got any feeling of progress, given we're more than halfway through the pause that we have. We've got the Mayor declaring his personal views on some of these things, and I know that's why we paused some of the decisions, so do you have any thought of progress?
Well, I'll come back on that as part of my contribution.
That's not the question I was going to ask. I also attended the assembly where this was discussed, and I think just to highlight it, it's on page 44, and there are a couple of three important points on it's 3.2 and 3.3. The first actually I'll deal with is 3.3, which is in relationship to schools, and there was quite a bit of discussion about where everybody knows when it's half term, don't they? Okay, because the traffic is not concentrated. So I think I'd like to see some greater work and emphasis placed on that particular point, because that's essentially what the Assembly were asking us to do. And I think that comes down to some other essentially about some of the toxic charging, intelligent charging, and affordability for people who are on low incomes to come into the city to work. And I think I formed the impression that this was quite high on lots of people's agenda about when that might happen, which really comes down to a little bit of what I call on page 50, where you're talking about sequencing. And I think it's essential to sequence some of these issues. So, for instance, if you take about residence parking, if you talk about workplace parking, if you talk about toxicity charging, what's first, what's second, what's third? From the county council's perspective, I think people are fully aware as to what's last on the county's list in respect of intelligent charging. We would wish to see other things introduced first and to see whether some of those other initiatives, road closures, working with schools, etc., resident parking, would work first before we go down a route of introducing charges in the future. So the county perspective, I think, is well known. It's about sequencing, it's about actually trying some of those other things first, whether that's workplace parking, whether it's about the air qualities. We did figure heavily in the big conversation. That was actually virtually the top of the pile in respect of what people were concerned about. It was about the air quality within the city. So that's my
Okay. Well, just taking your point, Claire, in terms of the Mayor's interim transport statement, to paraphrase, it said that charging shouldn't be introduced until there's, in the Mayor's view, a sort of transformational scheme like the proposed Cambs metro in place. And I think what we need to get, and we haven't yet got, is clarification. So I just intend to pursue that issue again. In having a sort of wide use of the word charging, it covers a whole range of issues. So charging for parking, to ensure that there's no free parking effectively in the centre of Cambridge makes a lot of sense. Workplace parking levy. I think my data, Mr. Blake, is that whilst the majority of the smaller employers didn't pass it on, overall the majority of employees were actually charged. But pick me up if I'm wrong. So I think that the workplace parking levy has got some applicability in terms of both the ability to be an incentive, but also the appropriate raising of funds. I think we're not in a position to say that we should just put this issue off, particularly for a decade, because the schemes that we plan, whether they're bus routes, public transport priority routes, improvements to roads like Milton Road, are not enough unless we can reverse this growth in vehicles. So we do have to look at each of the charging options, as well as address issues of equity, which was raised by Councillor Witherspoon and Ian Bates. It is the case that quite a large number of people have effectively had to leave Cambridge, not out of choice, but because that's the only way they can afford housing. And as a result, why should they be doubly penalised? We have to take that into account in looking at the options, but we also have to clean up the air. And I think I would underline the issue that we've had declining investment in public transport. We're seeing cuts to bus routes. We're seeing unreliability of bus and other transport services. And may we quickly sort out the rail mess. But we do need, I think, to generate, by way of clear passporting of any funds raised into public transport, because we do need to actually have both reliable services, we need to cap the costs compared to areas, for instance Oxford, that has two bus operators competing, and in terms of extending the service, both in terms of the range of routes and the hours that they operate. So So I think that this is a central thread, and I don't think Cambridge and South Cambridge can wait 10 years or a longish time. We need to consider the options in the short term as well, and it has to integrate with other schemes, because we do need to just reduce the number of cars, particularly at peak times. And we need to work with employers, because travel plans for places like the biomedical campus and other main sites like the Science Park, West Cambridge, North West Cambridge, other sites are critical. So I think we've got to be progressing with proposals. And unless we hear a clear reason why congestion can be sorted out in the next 5 years by a different route, this has to be part of the solution. So we've got two. You want to?
Yeah, I think just right, because I think one of the issues, and for those members of the public, they might like to look on the County Council website on the 12th of this month. The report will go to the E&E committee, Chairman, Councillor Wilson is the Vice Chairman, where we are going to continue to support bus services which were withdrawn by the two main bus operators. That's across the county, by the way, but that only, and I stress only, goes up to the end of the next financial year. I think the writing on the wall is then that it goes to the combined authority who have this responsibility. So the county council will pick up the bill in plain English until
End of 2019.
end of the financial year.
This
Yes, this financial year. And that's what the report recommendation is going forward. After that, I think there's lots of questions. I need to just bring that to your attention, because some of those subsidised routes are in Cambridge, which are well known, I'm sure, to lots of people.
So at the moment, the County Council's investing a reported 1.7 million.
We are well understood.
Yeah, okay.
Well
So
understood.
you're investing in excess of 1.7 million
Yes.
per year in supporting public transport, and you're asking others to sort it out after the end of this financial year.
Correct. It's over 2 million at the moment. It's not 1.7, it's over 2 million. We'll have to pay this in the car.
Okay. So I think that we, whilst there are issues about moving costs from one part to another, and we appreciate that decisions are hard given the risks to social care, we do need to progress this issue in the autumn, so that there isn't a risk to some of these essential supported services, as well as work with existing bus operators about what their future plans are, and link into the bus review, which I think is due to report certainly before the end of the year. In the autumn. And I haven't heard the Mayor offering to support bus services, but maybe that's going to be a question he's going to be asked. Okay, so we've got 3 recommendations in paragraph 2, which in paraphrase are to note the work on options for achieving modal shift, continue to review demand management options, and thereby keep them on the table, albeit that there are different views on some of them, and to work with the combined authority as the strategic transport authority to further review proposals for managing demand. Can I take a vote on it? All those in favour? And again, that is unanimous, and thank you for the work on this. So we then move on, and we're on to item 13, which Councillor Wetherspoon enthusiastically said is a much supported project for improving access, including by bike and walking into and through South Cambridge. Can I ask for an introduction to this? Yeah, so first of all, if you can take the question from James Isborough of the
Hello there. Through correspondence that we have with Mike Davies, we understand that proposals for the Greenway Quick Wins issue in this report include the widening paths which will result in the loss of green verges. We would expect that a greenway project would mitigate the loss of green by creating compensatory green habitats either on site or at nearby locations. This would inevitably increase the cost of this project. We're asking whether the board or relevant officers can confirm whether their cost estimates for the quick wins include sufficient funding to pay for this mitigation, and whether the intention is to provide such mitigation, given the planning commission will not be required in most cases. If this mitigation is not included in these figures, and Cambridge past, present and future would urge that this is done before any approval is given. In principle, we support the concept of greenways, but they should be genuinely green, and we would expect them to result in net benefits of green space and biodiversity, not a loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So just in response to James, we agree, and the mitigation is included, and we would expect that to happen as the scheme goes forward. This short paper, which the Chair of the Joint Assembly outlined, was well received when we went to the Assembly. Essentially two parts. One is a general update on the work on the greenways to date, and bringing to the board's attention that we're about to commence with the detailed consultations to come forward on the 12 routes with the final set of proposals. But then also seeking approval for quick wins, which James sort of outlined are intended to be short wins along existing paths, areas that are unlikely to require a sort of planning consent, but dealing with pinch point issues and the general standard of greenways, but really to get on site and deliver as soon as we can realistically do that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And also, just as a note, we will, as we normally do, give a fuller answer in writing to each of the questions so that you've got an answer to the question. On greenways, the proposal for the £500,000 allocated for these 12 routes, and a list of quick wins in the report. Any questions? Any comments?
Well, just as an observation, I think it goes back to the discussion at the Assembly, which I think is actually on the map on page 71, is to have a comprehensive map, because there are lots of cycleways in the city which are currently used, and therefore it would give a better picture as to what we're trying to achieve, which is actually linking some of them to existing, etc. So I think a very comprehensive map of what we've actually got would be most useful for the general public. That's just an observation.
No, that's entirely right, and that's in hand.
So we're talking about quick wins on the route out to St Ives, Sawston, Water Beach, Fulbourn, Morningsea and Compton, at about £4.6 million. Okay. All right. In the absence of any questions or discussion, can I see those in favour of this? Thank you. Unanimous. And yeah, we recorded votes from councillors, but we encouraged obviously a vote of all of the attendees. We'll then move on to item 14. And I'm not aware that Tony Orgy's here, who's the chair of the local liaison forum. But if he does come, then we can give him an opportunity to contribute. If Peter Blake introduces the item 14 on the Cambridge South East Transport Study. Again, there is a further element to this report. So what you have in here is the analysis of the consultation on the route options, and I'm sure Mr. Blake will say more of those on that, and also again some measures that we can get on and implement, including because the A1307 is in need of investment anyway. So, Mr. Blake, if you can introduce it, and then we'll see whether Mr. Orgy joins us.
Thank you, Chair. So A1307 corridor in from Haverhill to Cambridge, I'm sure won't need any explanation around the sort of heavily congested and the problems we have, particularly at peak times. This report was originally going to feed back in terms of the consultation and what the plan was going forward for the big picture interventions. That has obviously been wrapped up as part of the pause with the combined authority, and at the moment the plan is to bring that back after the pause in September, October time. So whilst you've got in front of you the consultation feedback, which broadly supports intervention, particularly in the shorter term, the focus of this paper is the shorter term measures. The paper outlines, particularly in point 5, around following the consultation, we've made a few changes to our proposals, really to reflect that in terms of areas that were not widely supported, such as some of the changes to cycle improvements around Newmarket Road, Baybrook High Street, and particularly the Dean Road Junction. So the proposals have been reflected to deal with that. From para 511 onwards, 512 rather onwards, we really outline what the short-term improvements are in terms of enhancing public transport, particularly improvements at the Baybrook Road Park and Ryan side, but also upgrading the traffic signal system along the corridor into Linton Village College. These are very much planned for delivery this summer, so working with County Council colleagues to get on site and get them delivered. And then para 521 outlines a medium-term package across walking, cycling and public transport improvements along that corridor that we'll deliver in subsequent summers in partnership with the County Council. As I said at the start, we'll be coming back for a further report in front of the board for what the bigger picture intervention is in terms of the wider public transport improvements along that corridor. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay. Any questions first? Any comments you want to make, Councillor Bates?
No, I support the recommendation of phase 1. I just want to request, actually, can you communicate that decision, please, to the MP for Haverhill? Okay, he's taking great interest in this particular route. Okay, bear in mind he's Suffolk MP rather than Cambridge MP, so if we could just tell him what we've been proposed on with us, would be much appreciated.
We're certainly in regular sort of dialogue with the Haverhill Forum, and we attend that on a regular basis. Thank you.
Okay, and then, yeah, I mean, we still need to discuss why or not the on or off-road proposals don't align with the Mayor's future strategy, including because we need to provide people with ready access and the ability to move from the buses into buses or other forms of public transport from cars. So in the absence of any further comments, and obviously we'll catch up with any further views from Mr. Orgy in the local liaison forum, I'll put the recommendations to the vote that are in front of us. So all those in favour? Again, so that's fully supported, and thank you for the input from people. I think the local liaison forum has played a really important role here, and it's been good to see the level of consensus about the improvements that are needed. So I'll move on then to the final item, which is item 15, the quarterly progress report. So if I could ask Matthews to introduce that item.
Thanks, Chair. Do say if you can't hear me, but probably you will be able to. So this is the progress report for the benefit of who aren't familiar with it. It sets out how the partnership is getting on across each of its work streams. So some key updates that you'll see on the subsequent pages. Several items I suppose to bring out, or things that look a bit different maybe. There's a communications and engagement update in 1, 2, 3 and 4, and annexes 1, 2, 3 and 4 that we would be happy to take any questions on, and the communications head of comms is here next to me. A note here just to give the board an update on the west of Cambridge package. particularly the park and ride element. You can see that on page 198. We're also asking the board to endorse an extension to the skills activity that you've been funding over the last couple of years as an interim step before we appoint an organisation to do a more significant piece of work for us on apprenticeships. 2.4 is a contribution to work with partners to get folk from Packworth to Cambridge in a sensible way before we have a more long-term solution. And 2.5 is about housing and about looking at a couple of schemes to invest in sites to see whether or not we can bring forward affordable housing that wouldn't otherwise come forward. So happy to take any questions or provide any further updates if anyone would like it.
Okay, thank you, Neve, and also I know the very patient Chris Mallion sitting here who must be available if anybody asks any complicated finance questions, but I'm sure he doesn't mind, is ambivalent. So thank you, Neve. Any questions on the paper and the proposals before I then look at each of these individual points in the recommendation? Councillor Bates.
Can I start with the one on page 125, which is the supporting contributions in respect of Packworth and the Biomedical Centre? I know we've had discussions before, and it says update to follow. I'm also conscious of the move from current site to Packworth to its new site will be possibly delayed, and does that have any impact? I don't think it does, but I'd like some reassurance. That's the first one. The second one is a finance question. Okay. Now let me find the page first, which is page 126. And it's really about the funding types and the budget, the forecast downturn, etc. Is that the total? Does that include things like section 106? Is that with a bonus, etc., etc.? So is that an all-encompassing, or is it not? Yes? Do you want to give you time to think?
My answer is yes.
It's everything.
It's all encompassing.
It's everything. Okay. It's important to recognise that it's not just one budget, but it's a combination of budgets. Okay.
We'll draw that out next.
Okay. Because people sometimes think it's just all of ours, and it's not all of ours. It's actually contribution from developers, etc. And the third, I think, is for Beth, actually, question. So actually, it's the report which is at the back in respect of local liaison forums, and the report which has recommendations in what I call the blue section. I don't. How are we going to deal with those recommendations? I may have missed it somewhere in the report, but there are recommendations being made about engagement events, etc. I just wonder where that is going to be dealt with. So, let's make a finance question. One is about Packworth and one for Beth about where the recommendations go, how do we deal with them through the Assembly and the Executive Board.
And it's just 1, 2, 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Was there a particular page or recommendation set? Or?
No, it was all recommendations. When I started to see the word recommendation, 1, 2, 3, I thought, well, how are we going to deal with those and address those questions? Whether we agree with them or not agree with them is another question, but how are we dealing with them? They're on pages 157, 8, 9.
Oh, okay. From the social communications.
Yeah.
So actually, it's within the report. We have actually taken on board and actioned the bulk of these recommendations already. But what I would propose is further to this report is that I will bring a report back in September, October, properly outlining progress against all of the recommendations and the strategy going forward, and in that way give the Assembly and the Board the opportunity to discuss some feedback on that.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
And the only impact on the Packworth bus service is when it starts. So we're in discussions with Packworth, given their slight delay as to when would be the appropriate time to start the service.
Thank you.
Okay. So So I've got on page, the first page of the report, I've got 5 recommendations. One, effectively to follow up the communications and engagement, the update and that analysis, update on the Park and Ride and the West of Cambridge package, £80,000 additional to extend the 6 months, for 6 months work on skills, the Papworth work in terms of a potential bus service, and £100,000 for 2 affordable housing feasibility studies. Can I see all those in favour? Okay. We've been in good spirits and good agreement. Obviously, we've got a few challenges ahead, but we've got a lot of work underway. We've achieved a lot in 3 years, and there's still a lot more to do. I just thank all of the contributors to the different projects, as well as the input from the public on many of the issues that we value their say and the way that they've improved the output of those schemes. So I declare the meeting closed. Our next meeting, if I recall, is early in